Hey there, guys. Music fan here. How you guys doing? Sorry, I'm kind of feeling very tired today. I had to do a lot of multiple takes of this particular review. Some of them really stretched on for a pretty long time, for like about 20 to 30 minutes, and always been trying to kind of shorten and shorten the reviews. Anyways, this is going to be the second installment of Uilleann month. We're going to go on an album review for U2's second studio album titled October. Look at that there. Pretty cool thing that the guys have a little bit of fuzzy haircuts here, which is pretty cool. It almost looks like a classic album cover, like one you would find in the 1960s. In a way, Adam Clayton, anyone? Anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about this album. So, whenever I would hear or whenever I would read comments online about which album is people's favorites or casual YouTube fans' favorites, and whenever they would refer to U2's earlier work, some of them would point to Boy a little. Some of them, like a lot of people, would even choose War to be the apex of their younger years, of their early years. But the album I really don't hear people talk about that much is October. I really don't hear people talking about this album that much. Like, this album really never gets mentioned, and I think that's kind of a shame, because in my personal opinion, I think this album, well, in hindsight, may not be their best work ever, but this album is really one of their most underrated albums in their catalog, and dare I say it, even one of the most underrated albums of the 80s decade. Really, the reason why I say that is that this album lyrically really dabbles into themes of religion and spirituality, where the Boy album focused its content on themes of adolescence and themes of frustration and adulthood. Here, the band chooses to focus more on spirituality and faith, and I mean, there goes like a long explanation, which took me a while in the previous take, so I'm going to try and shorten it and go really quick. Essentially, during one of the band's first tours, Bono lost his briefcase, which contained a lot of the lyrical ideas that was going to be on the second U2 album. So this threw the whole band into a complete panic. The least of their problems being that they didn't have enough time to record this whole album properly. They had to record the songs in a matter of weeks, which really created a huge pressure for the band. I think would create any pressure in any band. At the same time, too, three of the members was attending this Christian group called Shalom, which they would do prayer meetings and Bible readings and gospel readings, and basically like a small Christian support group. But then as the band kept increasing their attendance, that group continued to be a little more militant and a little bit more single-minded in its intentions, and really began to question the band's intention on starting a rock band and why they would do quote-unquote the devil's work. I'll explain a little bit more on that later. But this really caused the band a lot of confusion, and they struggled for a couple of months, or maybe even a month, I think, last time I checked, to really question the compatibility between the rock and roll life, or the life of a musician in a rock and roll band, and your values as a Christian, and life living as a Christian with a Christian faith. And this really caused a lot of confusion for the band. I think they almost even nearly broke up right at this point, until their manager, Paul McGuinness, at the time, really kind of sat them down and tried to have encouraged them to like stay in the band, to be an even bigger force for good in society and in the world. And that really caused the band to rethink their whole approach, and thought, like, we are a group. We are not a Christian band. We are Christians in a band. We are a band that who have our spirituality and our faith, and we are going to try to change the world, not by bashing people over the head, but by using our message and using our music to convey a true and honest emotion that connects with people and changes people's lives and thereby changing society. So really, just for that factor alone, I go straight into the songwriting of this album. This album, I say, is underrated because lyrically, they touch on themes that, especially in the year of 1981, not many bands would talk about at this point. They talk about like really not religion in the formal sense, but really religion in the sense of like what does their spiritual faith mean in their lives, like in the sense of comradeship. Like, I mean, three of the members, I think Edge, Bono, and Larry, are Christians. I think Adam may be like the only non-believer there, but he's still with them. The biggest thing about them is that they infuse spirituality in their lyrics, but not as a way to overtly preach or to try and to convert you or else. Here, they attempt to talk about subjects that really bands don't really, at this point, never really talk much about, which like themes like rejoicing, or themes like emotional themes like personal loss, and themes like spirituality. Like really these kind of topics like religion and spirituality were never really talked about that much in music at this particular point, or if they were, then at least not this overtly. This is probably U2's most spiritually themed and their most religious album ever, that really displays what they believe, the trials that they have gone through, in order to reconcile their personal beliefs with playing the music that have given their lives purpose and meaning, and they are not really that preachy about it. Musically, this may be at first sound a little bit like the Boy album, having that post-punk energy, but in here U2 does take a little bit of a risk here. They do take a bit of a step forward by adding different instruments this time around. They add piano, they add, I forget what they're called, but they're these Irish bagpipes that people play in funerals, that accompanies the song Tomorrow, which is a lyrical lament of Iris Houston and her funeral. Iris Houston being Bono's mother, and her passing away when Bono was 14. This album is just so underrated because we get sorry, I kind of went off track. I'll let this part out. And so yeah, they do take a little bit of a risk here, over here, but at the same time, you do kind of see a little bit of incompleteness. Like the band was really in a rush to complete all these songs because they really had no time. I think of the track "Is That All," which really recycles a riff called "The Cry" that the band would use in their concerts for beginning the track "The Electrico." Even despite the conditions that this album was recorded in, there's a real peaceful element to this album. I know that can seem very weird, considering that this album is more of a post-punk album, a rock album, than anything peaceful. It's not organs playing or choirs singing hymns or anything, but there is a peacefulness throughout this album. There is, I think of tracks like October, which is just really super gorgeous, this gorgeous piano ballad, not even so much a ballad, but it's a piano piece that has a bit of a poetry in it that Bono sings over. And it has a song like Scarlet, which really, every time I listen to this song, I think of this really beautiful cathedral, like sunlight shining through the windows and Bono singing Rejoice over and over again. I mean, the word rejoice, especially in the year of 1981, was really not a word that many bands or many singers would use in their songs, but Bono really went in there. The band really went out to declare their faith within these songs, but in a way that was not preachy, in a way that didn't really bash you over the head. These songs really spell less of U2 trying to convert people and more of showing music listeners their struggle, of showing their what their beliefs are, and yet the struggles that they went through, that they the emotional struggles and the emotional trials that accompanied this part of their personal lives, that they have their Christian faith that had given them value and meaning, and yet this the life of being a rock and roll musician, entailed, and also the stigma that came across it. And U2 was really brave enough to really go this deep into this particular album, that it's a more of an emotional album than even Boy, I have to say. Musically, this can get a little bland at some points. Like, I mean, the reason why this is not most people's favorite U2 album is because the songs, in their incompleteness, really sound very almost linear to each other. Like, I mean, like around the middle point of this album, like Without a Shout, Stranger in a Strange Land, you really kind of almost get to almost bland territory in a way. Which I can understand how people can turn away from this album, because this album really doesn't have any songs that really pop out at you that go, wow, that was amazing. But instead, really, this album really goes in a very, it's not a slow album, but it's probably their first ever introspective work in this sense. Like, there's still a post-punk energy, but there is an introspection in these songs here. But there are tracks here which I love, which I adore, like the first track, Gloria, which really amplifies the band's spirituality by including a Latin chant, In Te Domine, which I think means glory to God on high. This really fantastic song that really displays all the band's strengths on here are at display. Edge's guitar, Larry's drumming, Bono's passionate vocals, and Adam Clayton's slap and pop bass solo. It's just phenomenal here. This song is really one of their best songs in their catalog to date. But yeah, this album, I really don't get why this album doesn't get the attention that it deserves. Really, this is an album that really stuck out like I'm not say stuck out like a sore thumb, but really stood out uniquely in a catalog of other albums that really didn't talk about anything with any depth or any meaning. This album is really full of meaning, and even though the lyrical prowess on this album, again, due to the lack of time that Bono had to write all these lyrics, even though the lyrical writing isn't really fully formed, they're still a young band. Bono still didn't have the lyrical prowess that he'll possess later on in U2's career. And even though the lyrics can get a little bit fuzzy and a little bit hazy at points, there still is an intent. There still is an intent to make their passion, their energy shown, and make themselves heartfelt, and make their heartfelt energy known to you, the listener. And you don't have to be a Christian to really truly appreciate music this visceral, this powerful, and this emotionally moving. You can be an atheist and look at this album and appreciate the band's intent of wanting to change the world, this band of trying to look for meaning, the purpose and meaning in life, just like all of us are, always in search of the purpose and meaning of our life, and to make the world a better place. And really, without this album, we would not have songs like New Year's Day, or songs like Bullet the Blue Sky, like really songs that are a lot deeper in their emotional depth. Really, the emotional depthness of U2's work really begins with this album. I mean, Boy starts everything off, but this is the album that really it prepares the whole landscape. It prepares the groundwork for what the rest of the albums will come along in U2's catalog. And really, without without this album that has beautiful, fantastic songs on here, which I personally love, we would not have YouTube would not have progressed in the way that they have. They would their catalog would not have the wide scope and the variety and the music and lyrical richness that they possess now, and really is a testament to how an album like October, even though it is themed with a lot of Christian imagery and religious spirituality, really stood in uniqueness in a rock world that was just full but of, excess and just overall pointlessness and meaninglessness. This album, in my opinion, I think is just truly criminally underrated. I really love this album, and as for a rating for this particular album, I would give this album a 4 out of 5. Like, I know it's kind of like a notch or so below Boy, but again, it kind of lends to like the blendness of these songs. But again, this album, I really appreciate. I really have grown to appreciate this album over the years. Also, mostly because when I first heard this album, I really didn't get it. Like, these songs sounded so bland and so almost at first lifeless. But then the more I dug into this album and the lyrics and the meanings of these songs, the more I got them, the more I became resonated with these songs. And no, I'm not about to say that this is my favorite U2 album ever, but it's one that personally for me I appreciate more. I take it more to heart because of how brave and how courageous they were to really stick themselves out there, to be a band that have spiritual beliefs in a world where, if you're a Christian and in a rock band, in that kind of environment, and you really kind of had a lot of stares and really were not treated as kindly or really taken as seriously. Whereas now you have tons and tons and tons of Christian bands in the market right now singing incredible rock music, whether they focus their lyrics on the worship of God or they make their lyrics to be a little bit more digestible or a little bit more relatable. Either way, U2 really was the first band, at least in my opinion, to really make rock music safe for Christians. They were really the first band to really take rock music, or at least post-punk rock music and rock music in general, and really transcend it into a level that has more depth and more meaning and more catharticness behind it. And really, it's a testament to October, and I really think this album is underrated. You guys should really check this out. Like, even if you are an atheist and don't really believe, it doesn't matter, because the band, you really feel the intention of this band. You really feel the intention that the band really put behind these songs. Their passion is intense. Their performances are energetic, and the music here is just very emotional, and you really feel the intensity within here. And again, you don't have to be a Christian to enjoy this album, as I'm sure there are a lot of atheists who are U2 fans, and I think that's pretty cool, and that's super awesome that U2's music can cross religious boundaries and can cross religious beliefs or even lack thereof. So either way, for 4 out of 5 for this album. It's so underrated. I implore you guys, check it out for yourselves. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think, and I will see you next time. U2, October, continuing U2 month, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, Mr. Music Fans signing out. Bye.